Hello there and welcome. This is Mikhail or Michael speaking, and as always before the video starts I want to use this opportunity to express my eternal gratitude towards those who decided to support me financially, be it through Patreon, PayPal or Super Thanks. I really appreciate your generosity, so thank you friends and have a blessed day. Now today's video I will start with the general Liman direction, where all throughout last 24 hours and generally all throughout last month, Russian forces were continuously attacking in the direction of Ukrainian-controlled village of Terny, as well as village of Yampalivka. In the direction of Terny, Russians mostly advanced along this road and fought within this general stronghold. In reality, it looks much bigger and earned a nickname of Crocodile or Crocodile. It shouldn't come as a surprise that Russian forces were unable to advance along the road as it was in the open and offered no protection for the advancing Russian columns. So, in relation to this, Russian forces doubled down on their attacks within the Crocodile stronghold, and as overwhelming reports are now suggesting, not only successfully cleared the last portion of it, but immediately went on the attack, entered village of Terny, established a bridgehead, and are currently fighting for its control. The importance of this breakthrough cannot be underestimated, because with it, not only the battle for Terny has officially begun, it also saves Russians from the risk of advancing across this open field, thus minimizing their losses, and generally speaking, with the fall of Terny, the situation can escalate relatively quickly. Now, if the Terny falls to the Russians, they will be able to launch attacks in the direction of Yampalivka, as well as in the direction of Novosadove, and in support of these attacks, they might as well launch full-scale offensive here in this area for which they have been preparing, and as you can see, it all now depends on the Russian forces currently fighting in Terny village. If they succeed, the ice will move and the entire front line will shift. Now, before I move to the other portions of the front line, I would like to know your opinion on this whole situation. What do you think will happen after the fall of Terny, and how devastating the loss of this village will be for the general Ukrainian defensive efforts? And while you're at it, please do consider supporting this video if you liked it so far. A like, comment, and of course a subscription would be more than enough. Thank you in advance, and let's move on. From Liman direction, let's move to Seversk and discuss recent Russian advance in the general direction of small village of Vimka, where as a result of successful storming operations, Russian forces were able to advance and increase their overall situation by capturing a trench line. And here is exactly how much territories Russians captured within the last 24 hours, and it seems that there is more to come. Here on this picture you can see plans of Ukrainian trench lines. Russians captured this one, the first in line within the vast trench line network system that is currently held on by Ukrainians, but is actively stormed by the Russians. So after Russians consolidate their gains within this trench and withstand Ukrainian counterattacks, they will continue to advance and capture trench line by trench line until this entire area is cleared. Not only will those territorial gains be vital for the capture of the Ukrainian-controlled Vimka, but also for the possible Russian attacks in the direction of Ivano-Darivka, as well as to the flank and rear of Ukrainian formations fighting in Spirne. And with Russian attacks coming from the east and northeast, Ukrainian formations currently fighting within the village will be faced with a hard decision of either staying and fight or retreat and leave the village to the Russians. Now, there is a video of Russian attacks clearing the trench line that is located here in this area, on which I did an analysis, and this video will be posted on my Patreon. This is a Patreon exclusive video, so if you want to watch the video and you feel like supporting me financially, please do check it out. The link to my Patreon will be in the video description below. Not going really far away from here, let's visit Bakhmut and discuss what has been happening here all throughout the last few days. Now, recent report suggests that Russians were able to capture and clear this last tree line. The recent reports also suggested that Russians entered this small forested area and are now currently battling for its control. All those recent Russian advances are putting them at about 100 meters from the Chasiv Yar city itself, which means that officially the battle for Chasiv Yar will soon begin. Now, it's not going to be a local fight by any means necessary, as a recent report suggests that Russians are preparing something massive here. It seems that their plan is to first conduct massive artillery and aviation strikes upon Ukrainian villages of Grigorivka, Kalinivka, currently contested Bogdanivka, as well as upon the Chasiv Yar itself, and after such strikes are conducted, launch a massive assault in attempt to break through Ukrainian defensive lines, reach those three settlements first, and establish positions along this canal. Simultaneously, they will launch attacks in the direction of the Chasiv Yar. First, this small portion, which will be relatively easy to capture, and then across the canal to the Chasiv Yar proper. It seems that the preparation for this offensive is still ongoing, and the offensive might start within a week or so. From Bakhmut, let's move to Avdiivka and discuss the general situation here. All throughout the last 24 hours, Russian forces continued to attack within Berdichi in attempt to capture the village completely, fought within Semenivka for its control, attacked all across this portion of the front in the general direction of Ukrainian-controlled village of Umansky, as well as fought in Pervomaisky and Vodyane in the direction of Netailove. Understanding full well how desperate their situation is, Ukrainians continuously counterattack in attempt to buy as much time as possible before Russians will able to reach their next line of defense, which is just partially finished. The more Russians are busy fighting in these all settlements, the more time Ukrainians would have for constructing more and more fortifications. One of those attacks resulted in one of the Abram tanks being damaged along this road. Here on this short video you can see Russian Lancet drone chasing down and striking upon Ukrainian Abrams. If you look closely, you will see that the drone hit either an engine compartment or ammunition compartment. Both of those scenarios are no bueno for the tank, because if Russians hit an ammo rack, it probably exploded and potentially damaged the crew compartment and engine compartment. And if the drone hit the engine compartment, then the tank is officially damaged to a point where it cannot drive, and Russians will have easier time finding it and striking upon it again. So I think the chances of Ukrainians actually losing this tank is around 80%. One of the reasons why not higher is because it is relatively in the rear and Russians have no direct visuals on it. Then, of course, the situation in the village of Semenivka continues to develop, as Russians are actively storming its streets in attempt to capture it completely, and due to the hard fighting and constant Ukrainian counterattacks, the situation here remains to be extremely fluid. On the other hand, there's a video of Ukrainians bombarding Russian soldiers within this small residential area at a very outskirts of Berdichi and Semenivka. And of course this video suggests that Russians are now in control of this portion of the fronts, and to this day Ukrainians are unable to throw them back. And if Russians will be able to hold on to this portion of the front for long enough, this will ensure not only the fall of Berdichi, but also the fall of Semenivka. Not going too far from here, let's discuss the current situation that is developing within the Vodyane and Pervomaisky villages, where Russian forces were able to advance and capture those positions within the last 24 hours. As you can see with it, not only were they able to advance within the Vodyane village itself, but also greatly expand their zone of control in order to protect the village itself. The fighting, however, continues in Pervomaisky, but this recent Russian territorial gain allowed Russians to partially take control over this road, which will potentially allow them to attack Ukrainian positions from the north as well. And with Russian attacks currently coming from the east from the town center, Ukrainian formations here might find themselves extremely overwhelmed and will be forced to retreat. Now with this I end today's video. Hopefully it was to your liking and was informative enough. As always, humanity calls me to condemn all violence against human beings. Have a good day, and always remember, Russia will be free and great.